Hey guys, we're gonna look at the material for this week's lesson. We are It's still gonna look like on the schedule that we're off track, but we're actually kind of caught up. We got a little bit off track. If our schedule initially had said we were going to have 2 weeks devoted to the step one of project three, but we ended up doing that in 1 week. So Um, and we've also jumped ahead a little bit in the schedule, and we've gone ahead and done what we had reserved for week 11. So be that as it may, if that's confusing, don't worry about it. And the point is that in a couple of weeks we should be caught up, and the schedule will be the same. Um, the schedule will be accurate based on what we have in the schedule that I sent you after a couple of weeks. So anyway, we're on March the 12th. We're doing that lesson, so it looks like we're a week behind. We're going to go over jQuery today. We're going to at least going to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We're at least going to begin to introduce you to jQuery. Now, what is jQuery? jQuery is a JavaScript library. What do we mean by library? It's a set of code that somebody else has built for you to use, right? It's JavaScript, and you can basically include it on your page, and then all of the stuff that they provide for you in there, you can kind of use all of that. And it just adds functionality to your page. It opens up the possibilities of what you can do without you having to write that code, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So if something's already been done for us, why rewrite that if someone's already written a stable version of code that we can use to accomplish those things? And so jQuery, I guess it's debatable, but I would say it's probably the most widely used JavaScript library. And what really, to me, the power of jQuery makes it really easy to select a particular element on the page, a particular object on the page, and then do something with that object. So its greatest power to me is how easy it is to select stuff, and then manipulate the way that page is laid out. But we want to use it. And so in order to use it, we're going to have to make a reference to it in our page. I know it's been a while since we've done some JavaScript, so we're going to kind of take this slow, and we're going to ramp up slowly. And really today is going to be more about just getting your page set up to use the jQuery library, and then we'll just do some basic selection with it. You'll see here that we're supposed to, you'll go to this link on W3 Schools, this link right here, and then you're going to read from the jQuery home section all the way down to jQuery events. And so if we jump over to W3 Schools, W3C Schools, let's see, I thought I had that open somewhere, right here. Here we go. So it's basically this section down through here, right? jQuery home down through jQuery events. I'm just going to jump right into jQuery get started, because that's really that's the page that's going to tell you how to download this library and reference it in your HTML page so that you can use it. And so that step is basically laid out for you right here, downloading jQuery. And so let's do what it says here. You're going to go to jQuery.com. So we'll click on that link. And when you go to, that's going to link you directly to jQuery.com/download. And so we just want to download the library. So what we're going to do is, let's see, downloading the compressed production version. So this top link here. And what it means by compressed is that they've created a file that they've minimized the contents of that file, so it's as small as possible. Any extra space, any kind of comments that are in there, they've taken that out. If they had a long variable name in there, like, we've had some variable names if you're writing code, you make like descriptive variable names. And so if you've got a piece of code that references, I don't know, my timeline or something like that, we might call the variable my timeline, right? But they changed names like that to the letter A or the letter Z. So they make the variables as small as possible, the variable names as small as possible, so that it takes up less space. There's fewer characters in your JavaScript file. And so that's what the compressed version is. You can download the uncompressed version if you want to actually look at their JavaScript code, and sometimes you'll learn a lot just from looking at other people's code. But it's pretty massive, right? So it's kind of hard to digest that. So we're just going to download the compressed one. So click download compressed production jQuery. Now it's going to actually show you what the file looks like. So let's go back and actually right click on it and choose save link as. So if we do that, it's going to pull the file down. I'm going to go ahead and save it where my project is. So the project that I'm working on right now, I've stored it in this folder. Save it to the location of the Ian Board Shop files that we've been working on, okay? So save it to that folder. So when I download that, it's going to bring this jQuery-3.4.1.min.js file down to my computer in that file location. If it copied it somewhere else, if it copied it to your downloads folder or something like that, just make sure that you copy it from there to wherever your files are for the Ian Board Shop, right? So here are all of my files, and you can see that it just downloaded the jQuery library to that location. Let's just see by comparison, all right? So here's the compressed file. It's 87 kilobytes. I'm just curious. Let's download the uncompressed file. So save link as, and we'll download it to the same location. This is not, notice it doesn't have min in the name the way the previous one did that we downloaded. So we'll save it down and let's look and see how big that file is. So that file by comparison is 274K. It's still not a huge file, right? But the idea is that if you've got this, out on the web somewhere and people are referencing it, it's going to have to download to their system behind the scenes in order for them to run the code. And so you want to make everything as small as possible. And so just by taking out spaces and changing variable names to single, letters or something like that, it took it all the way down from, it's almost a fourth the size that it was before. Between a third to a fourth the size that it was before. So space takes up a lot of your spaces, and your extra characters in your JavaScript file take up a lot of extra space as far as your file size goes. So just wanting you to see how significantly that changed there. We don't need that one. I'll leave it there. Maybe we'll come back and look at that later. But anyway, for now, we just need to know how to reference this file, and it's very simple. If you go back to your W3 Schools page, it walks you through what you need to do. Inside of your head tag in your HTML, you just need to copy this script source equals jQuery-3.4.1.min.js, and then close your script tag. You need to copy that inside your head area of your page. So let me go to I'm going to actually open up the home.html file right here. And up here inside the head, we'll just do it, let's see. Oh, look, this is that I was using before, and I was actually already referencing jQuery, but it was an old version, so I'm going to copy that in there. So now we're referencing the right version of jQuery. Let me take this out because we're not actually using this right now. All right, so here's my file. Got the script reference in there inside my head tag, and we're good to go as far as referencing the library. Now, how do I know that the jQuery library is actually, that we're pointing to it correctly and it's actually working? The simplest way to do that is go ahead and save your file once you've done that, and launch it in your browser. I'm going to launch it in Chrome here, and once it opens up in Chrome, once it opens up in Chrome, let's hit F12 and launch our console, right? Our debugger. So I'm going to go to console over here, and this is something that I always forget, even though I've done it so many times. I always forget how to check the jQuery version. So let's see, check. I'm going to search that, check jQuery version, and I think it's like $.fn. Okay, fn.jQuery. I think that'll do it. So let's try that. $.fn.jQuery. All right, look at there. So that tells me what version of jQuery I'm using, 3.4.1. So since that didn't fail, I know that it worked. If we had messed something up when we included jQuery in our page, let's just change it real quick and see. We're just gonna, instead of 3.4.1.js, we're gonna add 3.4.1.min. We'll put a 1 after min there. We're gonna change the name of the file. And there's no file named that on my system. So this should, if I reload my page now, let's go back here to my page. I'm going to reload it, and then I'm going to go down here to my debug again, and I'm going to do that. Look there. Cannot read property. jQuery of undefined. It doesn't know anything about this library. And then we actually got an error right at the top here. It says this file right here, it's not found. All right, so let's go back and modify that in Notepad++, get that reference correct. I'll reload our page again, go back to our console, and we'll try it. Sure enough, it's working. Okay, so now we know we've got a reference to jQuery. We'll talk about the $ and what all that stuff means in a moment. But at least now we know that jQuery is working. All right, so that's our first step. We've downloaded it to our local system, and we've made a reference to it in our HTML page. So now we can make calls to functions inside that library, and we've got all the power of jQuery available to us. All right, they do note here that you can reference jQuery libraries that are out there on some CDN, a content delivery network, right? So Google hosts the latest version of jQuery out there. Microsoft does as well. There's other places that you can reference it on the web, and this is fine if you're sure that wherever the page is running from, they're always going to have internet connection. So in our case here, we want to be able to run these files locally, whether we're connected to the internet or not. So I want you to go with this version, which is to download it and then reference the local version, okay? All right, so let's go on to jQuery syntax and let's talk a little bit about that. Now, the way that jQuery basically works is that it'll always, a call to jQuery is going to always start with the $. That just tells you that you're accessing the jQuery library. That's what that $ is all about. They note that here. And then there'll be some selector. Now, what's a selector? A selector just means I'm selecting some element or some combination of elements on the page, okay? And so it'll be $ open parentheses, some selector that you define so that it knows which objects on the page, which elements on the page that you're going to be manipulating, and then dot some action. So we're going to do something with those objects, with those elements that we've selected. Okay, well, give me an example. Let's skip this for now, and let's look at this one. All right, let's just consider that for a minute. Dollar, open parentheses, in double quotes, P for paragraph tags, and then dot hide, open parentheses, close parentheses. All right, the selector part is this first portion here. $ says we're accessing the jQuery library. This portion here is our selector, and that's saying I want to select all paragraph elements on the page. Every P tag that we find on the page, we're gonna select that. Okay, and then what are we gonna do to all of those elements that we've selected? Well, we're gonna call the hide method or hide function that jQuery provides for us. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna take every element on the page that is a paragraph, and it's gonna hide it. It won't be visible once that call is made right there, okay? Let's try it. All right, now that we've got it downloaded to our local system, assuming that I have some paragraph tags in my HTML, let's see if I do. I don't see a single paragraph, so we may have to choose oh, there's one right at the top there. So the only paragraph tag I have on my page, on the EN board shop here, is this text up at the top, right? So check this out. If I go back to my console that I've already launched and I type in the code that was there on the W3 Schools page, I select all paragraph tags and I hide those tags. If I hit, let's watch what happens. Let's shrink this down a little bit so we can see behind here. If I call that, look at there. All of a sudden, my paragraph at the top of my page is gone, right? You might expect that there is a corresponding method function that jQuery provides for us that will reveal the things on the page that may be hidden, and you would be correct. It's the show method. So now I'm going to call the show method on all paragraph tags, and it's back, right? All of my, let's see, do I want to go there yet? Because there may be a div. Yeah, we won't. Much of the page is surrounded in a div, this search area at the top. All of these, my snowboard images and the corresponding add buttons and descriptions of those images, those are all in div tags. So instead of calling the hide method, the hide function on all paragraph tags, look, I'm gonna call it on just the um, on the div tags on the page. So let me pull the page up again so we can see what happens when I call that. Look at there. Sure enough, the search bar is now gone, along with all of the paragraph, all of the snowboard icons that were on the page, even the footer that we had defined on the bottom. Undoubtedly, it's in a div tag. Let's double check that. Let's make sure. If we go down here and find my footer, sure enough, I put the footer inside of a div tag, right? So all of that's been hidden from the page. Let's bring it all back. We're going to select all div elements, and we're going to show them. And so now if I go back to my page, they're all there again. Okay, so that's how the selector works if you enter an element, a type of element in there, right? That's one way to select items on the page. As you might expect, there are other ways to select items on the page. For example, this selector right here. We're familiar with this syntax. We should be, right? We use this dot and then followed by some name. We use that whenever we're defining classes, CSS classes on the page, right? And we also use pound when we're defining, when we're setting IDs on the page and we want to reference those IDs. So in our style sheet, if we want to say make all the text that is inside of a paragraph tag that's using the class test, if we wanted to make all the text red, then we would, in our style sheet, we would say .test, and then we would set the style so that the text color was red for everything that was using that class .test. If we had a unique element that had an ID of test, then we would, inside of our CSS file, we would say pound test, and we would set some sort of CSS properties for the element that has that ID test. And so that's what this is all about here. It works exactly the same way as it does in CSS. If you are using jQuery and you want to select every element in the page that uses class test, then you would do $ open parentheses, double quotes, .test, that's the class name, test is the class name, end quotes, and then you would call whatever function you want to call on those elements. So in this case, you could hide everything that's using class test. So let's just look at our code real quick and see if we got any classes in here. Sure enough, all of my board images are using a class. Oh, actually, I'm doing it on the div right here. So the div uses the class boards. Let's see if we got a different one so that we won't hide everything on the page. Here we go. My search bar is in a class, is in a div tag that's using the class search cart bar. All right, so let me grab that, and I'm going to go over here to my console again. Let me pull up my in board shop so we can see it in the background. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to move it over here this time so we can see our search bar. So I'm going to select everything that's using that class. So it's dot search bar. So $ open parentheses, double quote, dot search bar, end double quote, close your parentheses, and then dot hide. And this is a function, so we'll finish it with an open close parentheses there. So when I call that, did you see that? The search bar disappeared up here. Let's do the same thing now, but let's show it instead of hide it. And then it pops back in there, right? So that's how you select elements based on the class. And of course, if we had something with a specific ID, I don't know if I do here, let's see. ID, is there an ID? ID, yes, there is. There is an ID on my search bar also uses an ID, but so does the image, all right? So I've got this image, which is my little cart image that's out here. This image right here. If I want to select just that image, since the ID's been defined for it, I can do this. I can say, where's my, sorry, there we go. So what I want to do is just select this guy and only hide that image right there. So I'm going to do $ open parentheses, double quote, pound, because I'm selecting this element based on the ID of the element, pound img cart, that's what the ID was. We close our parentheses. Sorry, this phone is really loud. And let's do a dot hide. So watch this. We should see up here when I execute that, then this should go away. And indeed it does, it disappears. So let's bring it back by calling show on that. And there it is. Okay. So I think I think that's enough for this initial video. I don't want the videos to get too long, so we're going to stop here, and then we'll make another one for any of our future items. So be back shortly.